And welcome, whoa, there we go, to the July 18th Muscatine City Council meeting. Cinda, will you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Spread?
Present.
Harvey?
Present.
Brockert?
Present.
Saucedo?
Present.
Brackett?
Present.
Fitzgerald?
Present.
Malcolm? 6 present, 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, Cinda. Will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We have a special treat tonight, and we will get right to that because that's the best part. We're going to swear in 2 new firefighters to the city of Muscatine. If Michael Collins and Isaac Linder would please meet me at the podium. Get this up here, and if you, Michael, if you would come over here. Is that close enough? It should be.
Yep.
I want to make sure that they can all hear you at
All right.
home. Please raise your right hand and say after me. I, Michael Collins,
I, Michael Collins,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the constitutions
that I will support the constitutions
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Iowa,
and the state of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties of firefighter
discharge all the duties of firefighter
in the city of Muscatine, Iowa,
in the city of Muscatine, Iowa,
as now or hereafter
as now or hereafter
required by law.
required by law.
Congratulations. Please sign right there. Can't get out of it now. Step aside. Come on up, Isaac. Please raise your right hand. Stand a little closer to the microphone if you
Okay.
could. I, Isaac Linder,
I, Isaac Linder,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the constitutions
that I will support the constitutions
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Iowa,
and the state of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all of the duties
discharge all of the duties
of firefighter
of firefighter
in the city of Muscatine, Iowa,
in the city of Muscatine, Iowa,
as now or hereafter
as now or hereafter
required by law.
required by law.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Please sign right here. Congratulations to you both. If you would please go around and shake hands.
Congratulations. Congratulations. See ya. Yeah.
We want to thank all of their families and all the guests who came out tonight. We're very pleased to have them as a firefighter in the city of Muscatine. Thank you. We'll give these guys a moment to go get prepared for a celebration. We're going to go ahead and continue on with tonight's agenda. Is there anybody here tonight who would like to speak to council about something that's not on tonight's agenda? Please come to the podium and state your name and address.
My name is Ralph Burr, 3015 Allen Street, Muscatine, Iowa, First Ward. Well, tonight I'm going to ask somebody from the city to come up and tell the people in Muscatine when they're going to fix the Hauser and Dawson sewer problem out there. I get calls every time it rains, and it's up to this. I don't know what to tell the people, so I want the city to tell everybody in Muscatine what they're going to do about it. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Ralph. I don't know if, I doubt that staff is prepared to do that tonight, but we can ask that they will give us an update as soon as they're able to do that. We're going to continue on with tonight's agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes items 6A through C, items 8A through M, items 12A through C, and tonight's bills totaling $2,052,968.73?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Brackett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We're going to continue on down. We have one public hearing tonight, and it concerns declaring real estate located in Scholten's addition for sale and authorizing the sale of said property. City staff have negotiated a purchase price of $250 with an adjoining property owner. Now is the time for the public to comment. Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to close?
Move to close.
Second? We have a motion to close by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Spread. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We're on down to 11A. We have presented for City Council's consideration a resolution authorizing the sale of lots 5 and 10 in the Scholten's addition to the City of Muscatine to Robert Wilson for $250. This property is landlocked and only accessible by crossing another parcel. Mr. Wilson is the only adjoining landowner that showed interest in the purchase of this property. It's what we talked about in public hearing A. Is there a motion now to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11B. We have presented for City Council's consideration a resolution setting a public hearing regarding the proposed amendment of Title A, Chapter 7, Building Regulations Mechanical Code. This public hearing will be held on August 1st of 2019 at 7 p.m. in the City Hall of Council Chambers. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Fitzgerald, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Brockert.
Aye.
This resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11C, we have now presented for City Council's consideration a resolution setting a public hearing regarding the proposed amendment of Title 8, Chapter 9, Building Regulations, Plumbing Code. This public hearing will be held on August 1st, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the City Hall Council Chambers. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
And Councilman Fitzgerald.
Aye.
This resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11D, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing regarding the proposed amendment of Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 11 of the City Code regarding floodplain regulations and definitions. This public hearing will also be held on August 1st of 2019 at 7 p.m. in the City Hall Council Chambers. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Fitzgerald, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
And Councilman Spread.
Aye.
This resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11E. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution authorizing the assessment of unpaid abatement costs to private properties. The nuisance abatement costs total $3,863.20. The administrative fees are $600 and the assessment costs are $1,150. The total fees being requested for assessment at this time total $5,613.20. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Spread with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion?
I had one question on this, and it's more of a tax question, but as far as it goes, because these go to the property tax, correct, when we do this? And so one of the questions I had, or the question I have on this is that one of the properties on there is a church. Do they pay property tax, and will we ever, only if they sold the property would we ever then get that money? Is that?
If they sold the property, which has happened in recent history, at least my history. Nancy, is Nancy? There's Nancy. I can't think of any other opportunities, Andrew. I'd have to look. But likely not. Overall, our collection rate, last time we looked at it, was around 82, 83%, I believe, as a whole. So these smaller ones, nonprofit agencies will likely wait longer until we collect them, if we collect them.
Okay, so we'll attempt to collect this debt from them, not just push it onto the property tax.
No, it'll go on the property, well, it'll be accounted for under the property taxes. There's nothing further we can do to collect it.
It represents a lien on the property now.
Yes,
Right.
it does.
Councilwoman Brockett was
I've had
next.
discussions with folks at that church, and they are willing to pay, but they'd like to set up a payment plan because their funds are short, as
simply
is
need-
for a lot of churches.
Sorry, they simply need to contact the city
Sure.
finance office and work to set up a
Okay.
repayment plan with them, so absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And
They
by
d-
move,
Yeah, they do want to pay, but
Great.
they just don't have the funds all at once to do it.
No, that's certainly acceptable
Okay,
and
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
so by moving this forward, that won't prevent them from being able to set that up, correct?
We have,
Or do we need to pull that one out?
what do you think?
You're not going to avoid it, Nancy. You might as well just get on up.
I think you can go in and pay your special assessment at the,
I wouldn't see why not.
I don't know that you'd be able to set up the payment
It
plan.
really should have been set up as a payment plan before we send it to the county, because they won't take partial payments at the county. So if they would have contacted community development prior to this, I'm sure that a payment plan could have been arranged.
So do we need to pull it from the resolution in order to have that happen?
I would, if that's the case, then I'll make that motion, but I'll let you answer
Yeah.
first.
Okay, probably we should, rather than taking the fees at the city and then notifying the county to reduce it. That's probably a better way to handle it.
Okay.
If we're comfortable that they are going to make the payments.
They sincerely would want to, but they just don't have the money all at once to be able to do it.
well, if they don't come in and set up payments, next month you could put it back on.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not
Yeah.
like it's a
Yeah.
forever thing.
Yes.
Jody Rowe Goodwin, Mayor, Council, sorry. My suggestion would be, if you're going to do that, to pull it, remove it, then we need to adjust the amount that is approved to go forward to the assessment for the summary. Just the details so that we're clear on what is going.
Okay.
We can do that. We'll go ahead. Councilman Brackett?
So I would make the motion that we pull, do you want the item number, is the item number on the far left what identifies it? It would be 13102290002. Is that sufficient? Okay, so I would move that we remove item 13102290002 for 1001 Oregon Street from the special assessments and allow them until next month's meeting to have set up a payment plan, otherwise to put it back on at that time.
Sounds good.
Do I have a second?
And
This is an amendment to
and
the
also
first
would
motion, right?
adjust the
Right.
total.
Pardon me?
Right,
It's
I
an
got,
amendment.
No, this is a second.
Well, we haven't voted on the first one.
No, we haven't yet. Are you just amending the first?
yes.
You're amending the first resolution to include that? Okay.
Yes.
And Councilman Harvey, you seconded it. Are you still willing to?
I'm not done, I'm not
Okay,
done
I'm
yet.
sorry. Go ahead.
Because I have to get in the part about adjusting the fees
Okay.
according to.
Oh, are you going to do that now?
uh,
I was going to read it, but go ahead.
Should be, I would think it should be part of the motion. if you
Go
could.
ahead.
it needs- yeah, right, do I need to do the math, or can I just
Just-
state that?
just say that it should be
Just say
adjusted.
it.
Okay, that's, that's where I was going. So, also adjusting the fees based on the removal of that item.
Now, do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, Councilman Fitzgerald, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
Councilman Spread.
Aye.
Councilman Harvey.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert.
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. Thank you for letting us know that, Nadine.
I'll get in
That
touch
was
with
just-
those folks tomorrow.
That was
Just the amendment.
That's the amendment. We
Gotta
still
do
need to
the
vote
Yes,
on.
yes.
Okay.
So we're back on the first resolution, and we already had, Councilman Spread made the motion, Councilman Harvey seconded it. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
And Councilman Fitzgerald.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted. Now we're on 11F. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution awarding the contract for the 2019 Asphalt Alley Program to Taylor Ridge Paving and Construction in the amount of $208,459.59. 5 bids were received, and the low bidder does not meet the bid specifications. So staff recommends awarding the bid to the second lowest bidder, Taylor Ridge Paving and Construction. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Fitzgerald. Is there any discussion?
I had a question on it. So with this being at, oh, no, it looks like it changed. So with the estimated amount that we had of 100,000, do they stop when they hit that point?
Similar to our other programs where
Okay.
we'll work up the amount that we have.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was what we were talking about.
That's the way I read it too. Hearing nothing else, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11G, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to accept the bid price of $59.98 per ton for road salt from the City of Davenport. Because of the brutal winter and the low stockpile of rock salt, we have ordered 3 barges full, totaling $269,910. There's $220,000 budgeted for the purchase. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Harvey. Any discussion?
I was just gonna ask where the overage comes from.
Most likely, did you say roadway maintenance? And then, well, Brian,
What budget loses out is what I'm getting at, so.
Brian had also, you'd identified one line item in particular, and then the difference will come out of road use taxes. Road use taxes are used from various funds
Okay.
to fund our projects and staffing and equipment purchases.
Okay.
So what we'll be doing is work to reduce the overall line items to cover the additional costs, or cover it through, I guess that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, so it'll come mainly out of road maintenance
Roadway.
budget,
Road use tax.
road use tax,
Road use
right?
tax, yes.
But that would normally go to,
Public Works,
okay,
road use, yep.
okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do we have storage for this?
Yes, so with our new facility, the IDOT building.
Okay.
Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11H. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request for the approval of a contract with Barker Lamar Engineering Consultants for the preparation of the assessment of corrective measures for the Muscatine County Sanitary Landfill. The cost is a lump sum of $13,900. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
I have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Brackett. Any discussion?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Just a quick statement. Tim Buelow was here at our last meeting and made a presentation. They were hired, I think, around 2015 to come on board with the city based on a recommendation that we had from Jim Brick. Tim and Barker Lamar has been working hand in hand with city staff and DNR. They have an excellent working relationship with DNR, and we have gone from a point where we thought we had several $100,000 worth of, if not more, worth of remediation potential on that site, to where we have a small liner improvement and natural attenuation on all three sites. So their work, I'm not sure that it really came across, but this is an extremely positive story from start to finish. And I just wanted to point that out in the work that they've done to get us from point A to point B. It's a very positive story. Kevin's going to be working on one to kind of show the history and how that works, or has worked, to get us from point A to point B. So this is a very positive story.
Good return on our money.
Excellent return. Couldn't ask for better.
Good. Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11I. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Jim Hawk Trailer in the amount of $23,552.46 plus freight cost for the replacement of walking floor in trailer number 13. This is not a budgeted item, but is necessary for transfer station operations. This will be included in the revised estimate for the 1920 budget. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
And just,
I had,
Same.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and just to clarify on this, this will remain within the transfer station's budget, but it will be part of the revision.
So, transfer station budget, if you recall, is extremely tight at this point in time. We also have a trailer, a capital purchase item as well. Dave's going to look at some options. Material, I think it was, David noted that it was budgeted as aluminum. Maybe we look at steel, maybe we look at used as an option to stay within our budgeted cost. If not, we'll look at some other line items as well.
Okay.
I hate to I guess, give out some news too early, but Dave is also working on some recycling options and staffing options as well that I think will work extremely well and may save us some funds as well, or bring in some additional revenue. So
Okay, well, I mean, it seems like something we need no matter what.
We
It's
do.
not really a luxury, so.
we do. So we will be looking at those capital items to bring the cost down.
Okay.
I was just wondering why it wasn't a budget item, which means it was unexpected. So did something bad happen to make it go bad faster than we would have thought, or did? You had hoped to get another year out, gotcha. Anything else?
So Jim Hawk is doing the repairs? Or are we doing that? Because it seems like you're reading through it, they're welding supplies, welding rod.
Those are all costs for Jim Hawk to do the repairs. They broke it out into line items for how they came to that cost.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11J. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Terry & Sons Painting in the amount of $27,484 for painting of the Muscatine Aquatic Center Pool Basin. 3 bids were received, and Terry & Sons was the lowest bid. There's $30,000 budgeted for the expense. Is there a motion to approve the resolution, the request, as submitted?
So moved.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with the second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion? Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor, I have a quick question. When do we plan to do this work? This fall? Okay, thank you.
Question as well,
Go
too.
ahead.
Do we have anybody that's gonna be doing third-party inspections for the mill thickness on the actual coating to verify how much primer we have, how much coat of paint? The mill check is really what I'm specifically asking.
We have the specifications from when the pool was originally painted, and Terry and Sons did that painting job, and their product has lasted 5 years on average. So do we have specifically on our specs a mill thing? We'll have to look at those specs and find out. Typically, we have not done that and have not had a problem.
It would probably be at least a good double check. I mean, you can do a wet mill or a dry mill too, but it probably wouldn't be ideal if the contractor putting on the actual coating does the inspection themselves too. And then it'd be good for our own to have usually the vendor that sells the paint sometimes can provide it for pretty inexpensive cost or free.
We'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The request is approved. We're on 11K. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to MTI Distributing in the amount of $73,360.53 for the purchase order for the purchase of a Toro 4700D riding rotary mower for the soccer complex. There's $82,000 budgeted for this purchase. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion?
Just one question, is it a new unit or is this a
Yes.
used unit? It's new? Okay, good. That's all I have.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11L. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Sinclair Tractor in the amount of $44,072.32 for the purchase of a John Deere tractor for Greenwood Cemetery. 5 bids were received, and the lowest bid that met the specifications was from Sinclair Tractor in Muscatine. There's $42,000 budgeted for the purchase. The overage will be paid out of the savings on the mower purchase. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Any discussion?
I was just going to point out that I like that the overage on this was paid by the other one, but when I read it the first time, and I'm just making this note because when I read it the first time, I had to go back and read it again and realize, okay, yes, it was the mower on the previous line item that we saved the money on that then allows for this. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
Do we have the attachments for this tractor that we've already got that we plan to use on the new tractor?
There will be brand new attachments that go with this tractor, including a snow blower and a blade for snow removal.
Okay, so the 44,000 includes all of the attachments?
Yes, it does.
And what are we getting, Tim? What attachments are we getting?
The snow blower and the blade.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11M. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the City of Muscatine's general contractor agreement. 2 bids were received with the low bid from BMW Builders 2. The agreement would be in effect from July of 2019 through June 30th of 2022 with a possible 1-year extension. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilman Spread with a second by Councilman Fitzgerald. Is there any discussion?
Just a Jeff question. I mean, normally do we have this many years for a contractor that does this type of work? Being that the cost for this was so close, why don't we just do every year or every other year? Because reading through this, I think it was 75 cents difference.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The past contract that we had was a 3-year contract with a 1-year extension, so we just modeled it after that.
Okay.
I suppose we could change it in the future if you'd like to. The prices were very close. One of the things that separated the two that we realized after we put this out was that engineering was included. We don't need engineering costs because we have engineering staff. So when we separated those out, then it became a bigger discrepancy on the two prices, and that's why we recommended the low bid to BMW Builders too, who had it in the past and has done fine work for us as well. But if you'd like us to reevaluate it and do it on a yearly, we could do that. It's just more work for us.
It just seems odd that we normally do every other contract yearly to bi-yearly, but it was just, I didn't know that that's something that we did every 3 to 4 years. And then when I reviewed it, I saw that it was just 75 cents to continue to stay competitive is what I was asking from different vendors or different contractors.
The reason we did it is because that's the way we had done it. Not the best reason, but that's what we had, so.
I'm good with it, I just asked.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11N. We have time for discussion on a potential code revision to Title I, Chapter 10, Section 2, E1B. Who would like to take the lead on that discussion?
We have to have a motion to talk to it or not?
No.
Okay. So I requested this to go on, and I would like to take the lead on it. I'm requesting that we look at a new code. The current code basically reads that any elected official shall deal with the city department heads and employees who are subject to the direction of the supervision of the city administrator solely through the city administrator, and council members shall not give any orders to such department heads or employees through either publicly or privately. All departmental activity requiring attention of council shall be brought through the body of the city administrator. That, to me, is a little challenging in regards to ever having any discussions with any staff or questions of any nature of, how things could improve or not, or what are we doing right without violating that code. So my request is to look at the new code that I've submitted is any elected official shall have unfettered access to the department heads or staff employees for the purpose of open communications. Council members shall not give orders to any such department heads or employees, either publicly or privately in communications. What I'm requested is to look at that and see if we could actually revise that under 1.10-2 under E1B. My thoughts in regards to this is basically to have a department head in regards to, or present in front of any staff member, would never give you an unbiased review of anything of any shape or form in regards to being honest in review of saying, if there's something that we need, or is there something that you can improve, things that we've done in the past, are we doing it correctly? The new equipment that we just purchased for you, is it a good equipment? I can't get that unbiased review without actually having to make sure that I CC somebody in. When I actually look this up under the website, it's under transparency on our website, is where it codes at. To me, I don't believe that it's transparent. If I have to CC in the city administrator for every request that I have publicly or privately, to me, I don't believe that that's actually being transparent. My second thought is when I started looking at that, I started looking at all the different departments that we have. And I look at all those departments and I start thinking to myself, I can't call any of them. I technically couldn't call any of them and ask them something without CCing somebody in. So my neighbor to my left, my neighbor to my right at my home have more rights than what I do. And so the way the code is written, it doesn't give me that freedom. So what I actually want is just open communications. If things are doing good, let me know. How do I know that what we just purchased is actually good? Council is actually stewards of the taxpayers' money. If we can't actually publicly ask a question, I literally don't believe we have the freedom to. I remember when we were doing a tour of the DOT building the other week, Oz comes up to me and he starts telling me that he was talking to some firefighters and how there was potential needs for some firefighters in the future. And he was trying to explain to me the reasoning behind it. I started thinking about this, and actually the way this code's written, he's in violation of that code. And so my thoughts in regards to how do we improve our actual communications, again, not direction, not giving any orders, not requesting anybody to do anything, It's basically asking if I'm gonna go down the hallway and I say, hey, how things are going? Hey, did that new, I remember thinking when I did a ride with the police, they were explaining to me why the SUVs were so important in the future. We actually helped making better communications and budget reviews when I was able to know what was actually going on versus me looking at something and saying, I can't communicate. I have to actually go back, CC and the administrator, actually have the department head in front in the staff meeting if I want to make a request. So my personal review is looking at this and say, hey, I want unbiased review. And if staff or somebody can tell me, how do I get an unbiased review with their direct supervisor there? I would challenge them to believe that you're going to get an actually unbiased review, because this is actually written currently. And I understand 27 years that it's been in place, but that doesn't mean that it's right. Things change, economies change, and for us to be a competitive city that we are, we need to be looking for ways to stay competitive. And for me to actually be building walls of communication, no, we need to remove walls, because right now we have barriers currently with the way the system is written, in my view. So I would look to see if I could get a consensus of 4 members to be able to move this forward to change the code.
I would add to that. I mean, obviously I support it. This is very similar to what I brought forward at the first meeting of the year. And for the same reasons, wanting to be able to speak to staff and, as Santos said, not to give them direction, but just to be able to say, hi, how's it going? And not be in violation of code. And right now we're, as this is written, although this is not the directive that we were told at the January 3rd meeting, as this is written, we can't even do that. So at the January 3rd meeting, we were directed that we didn't need to change the code because we could talk to staff. We just could not give them direction. And if we were going to talk about something that was going to be brought in front of council, then that needed to go through the city administrator. But what we were told basically was that we could talk to staff and just let the city administrator know the conversation had occurred. But that doesn't seem to be the practice. So I would absolutely support the request of having staff turn this into a code change and then bring it back for the readings and the vote.
Anyone else?
I personally don't believe this is necessary. I've had issues with one of the building inspectors at one time. There was an issue that came up, was brought to my attention. I talked to the city administrator. The city administrator said to go to the community development individuals. That time it was Steve Boca. And Steve sat down with me. We talked back and forth and we got the issue resolved. I don't see any need that if you want to say hi to an employee, that we don't need a code change for that. I mean, that how's your day going? Just general conversation. I think that would be a ridiculous thing to ban. But at what it's written right now, I don't believe it bans you from saying hi to an employee. And I think that anybody that has a beef or wants some information, honest information from a department, I think the department head is going to give you that. And to think otherwise, I think you're shortchanging the city staff.
I did receive an email today. Councilman Malcolm is out, had surgery today, and he sent me an email and asked me to please read into the city council meeting minutes tonight this statement. I am in favor of the proposed code change for communications with staff. Further, I am requesting that this matter be placed onto a future agenda for discussion and voting. Respectfully requested, Osmond Malcolm, Councilman, 2nd Ward.
I'm going to support Phil in this issue. In my 7.5 years on the council, I've had absolutely no difficulty getting the information that I need to properly represent the citizens of Muscatine and discharge my duties as a city councilman. It's that simple. I don't think saying, hi, how's your day, is a violation of code. And I do see value in having the city administrator or perhaps the proper department head in the room to have an honest conversation about any issue at all. And I don't think that it is inherent that having that supervisory staff in the room is going to dissuade any staff member from telling you the truth.
I would,
So I respectfully disagree with Kelsey and Santo.
Thank you.
And if I may, I would agree with that as well. I think you have a bigger problem if you can't have an honest conversation with a department head and a staff member and a council member present. I think it's a bigger problem if you can't have that discussion. I'd also like to remind the council that they cannot act as a body under Iowa law outside of this dais. You cannot act as an individual on behalf of the city of Muscatine, other than at this table and as a majority of council members. I have a number of issues with this. I have asked Matt to review the matter as well. I've sent out an email to our comparable cities. Last time I did the research, I believe they all had similar provisions to our code with those comparable cities as well. Additionally, I believe you have a number of issues. I believe you have contract issues that the city attorney is going to have to look at my contract. You have city council rules that would need to be reviewed.
Who owns the code, Greg?
Excuse me?
Who owns the code?
City council?
Okay.
Right.
So that's my request in regards to this. So I understand that you have issues with it, but I don't believe that you can actually stop us from changing the code. If you look at the actual comparable cities that you're talking about, I would be interested to see what Bettendorf, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Washington, Davenport, Marion, Eldridge have that you say is comparable, because those are the ones that we started to research. They have comparables and nobody will give them direct staff. We're not asking to tell staff anything as a body here. We're basically asking, if we had a question, if I said, hey, how's it going? How's that new truck that we just bought you? How's the fire truck? How's the things operating? I can't do that.
No. You can
Correct.
say
And
hi,
so,
but
yeah,
you cannot,
I can say
you
hi.
You cannot get
And
into
I
city
can't,
business.
I can't follow up on an issue. I can't even, I look at, like I said, if I'm requesting something in the whole review of what those departments have under our transparency website of those department heads, I can't call them.
No.
I can't follow up on them. And that's where, if I'm a steward and I'm elected by the people to actually represent and be stewards of their funding, which is, to me, the millions of dollars that we're budgeting, those are all the reasons why I believe I should have unfettered access to actually ask those. I disagree, I wholeheartedly disagree with believing that if I stand in somebody's room and there's supervisors there, they're gonna give me an unbiased review. They might say, hey, you know what? The truck's actually not working, but it's more making the best of it. So if there's things that I need to review and get back with you, I would. We're not looking on some goose chase or some, out to get you. But if there's things that we can find out that we're improving on or how we can improve on, that's our responsibility. That's our job as a council, is figure out how can we do things better. And that's all we're asking, is saying, if I can ask somebody from actually our community and our staff and saying, hey, this is the new equipment. We look at staff looking at other cities and finding other things that they're doing better. That's what our job is also to do, is better, figure out things that we can improve on. If I'm looking at saying I can only have questions through you, I can only ask staff through you, to me, that's not having access. That's not looking at ways we can improve. And I'm going to continue to stress this. We are in competitiveness to all of those cities, because if we make our city more difficult to actually have communications with council, have communications with steps, I feel like we're losing businesses, we're losing people to those cities. So I look at ways, if we're not in a competitiveness, and if you think that this code is written like that and makes it barriers, that's fine. Continue to talk to BRIC, to continue to charge our taxpayers more money, to continue to ask for more changes that you feel that are impairing your contract. That's great. We can review that as well too. But my guilt is, look at this code. We're asking that. That's what we're asking as a council.
and I could provide a very specific example of where the lack of the ability to have an open conversation was made very clear, and why it's a problem. And that was during the budget session when we were talking about the art center funding, and a staff member attempted to, bring us some information that they felt was pertinent, and that was actually a department head. And then you attempted to shut down that conversation. Now, we continued on, and we ended up passing the request that came out of that. But that's a clear example of where, had we gone straight through you, that conversation would not have happened.
So I have a question. If
Hang
the
on.
issue,
Are you done?
I actually didn't get a finish, but I'll defer to Councilmember Sprague.
if the issue is transparency, if you have a one-on-one private conversation with any employee, tell me how that's transparent. Why isn't it in a public forum? Why isn't it in a group full of people that can hear the whole thing.
Right here at the council table.
So if.
Right here.
Correct. But if I have to have multiple people there just to ask a simple question on something that we've already purchased, or something that I'm saying, how are things going? How can I do that without violating the code? And what I'm trying to get at is no business, no company, no organization I have ever heard of has a code like this. You can't tell me that you can go ask an HR representative, because I actually asked him on this, and I said, if an employee is working and they have the direct supervisor right there, potentially even their plant lead on top of that, is in their office and they're saying, hey, how's your job doing? Things going great for you? How's things there at home? You know, they flat out said, you will never get the same review if somebody's just there. And again, I'm not trying to find something wrong. I'm trying to actually say, if there's things that we can do better, tell me. The person that's on the job that does their day-to-day job, the people that are actually taking out the trash, the people that are actually cleaning the streets, they know their job better than we do. And if I can't even communicate to them,
I understand.
How do I know what we're doing right? How do I know what we're doing wrong?
But you haven't answered my question. How is a one-on-one conversation in a closed-door session
It's not a closed door. If it was a closed door, what I'm saying is if I'm walking in the hallway in passing, and somebody hears that I accidentally said something, they could be in violation of the code, and it comes back, and just like me, I violated code.
Yes, you did. You violated code at the last council meeting. You violated
Yeah,
the law.
that's-
You came
so-
up to me.
Correct, and my point to you is
Violated the
that
law.
when.
And- No, I'm not, I'm speaking.
Go ahead.
You violated the law. You said, make this happen, so that you could talk to a staff member.
Correct.
That is a violation of the city code.
Yep.
That is a violation of Iowa law.
You told me that, and that's why I said, you know what, I'm not gonna make it happen no more, that's fine.
Right.
Because in your email,
And
you
so-
said, call me, I'll make it happen.
I'm not done. I'm still speaking.
Okay.
How is that transparent when you, and how can I trust you to go out and speak to individuals when you're willing to come up to the city administrator and ask me to violate the law and to
Yeah,
set up a meeting?
you said that in the
and to
email. You
set
said
up-
that in the
Set up a
email.
meeting with
Right.
a staff member and to ignore the law. How is that open and transparent? And how can you be trusted to speak with that individual?
Okay,
You
you
need to
wanna
work
talk
through the
about
city
trust.
administrator, and you need to work through your
Okay.
professional management staff. That's
Correct.
the proper route.
Yes.
You have other issues. You have retaliatory. This is also potential for retaliation.
What?
Yes,
bring it
really,
up.
no, that's fine, let him
There are a
speak, let him
number-
speak.
There are a number of issues, and I think the city attorney needs to be present for this discussion. He's also said this language that you've got written here and outlined is too vague and inappropriate.
vague.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So unfettered access, so what does that mean? You can go and speak with a staff member for 8 hours and take up their entire day? What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. It needs to be clearly written and defined. And this is a common language within cities throughout the country, not just in Iowa, where you work through the city administrator and your professional staff.
Correct.
Those are the folks that you are supposed to have direct conversations with, not or you can, with other staff, with the department head present.
Okay.
Why
Does-
can't you have
does-
those conversations?
That's fine, you've already said your point. Again, council owns the code, you don't own the code, okay? I think I need to remind also who also is actually reporting to who here, okay? So if you're telling me that I have to report to you, or I have to tell the city attorney what to do, or the city attorney tells us what to do, explain to me, because if they're telling me that we can't write the code, we can't reword it, we can't make it more clearly, because if you read E1B, that doesn't even make sense. Everything that we do, every conversation we have has to be through you.
Nobody's saying you can't rewrite
Well,
the code.
that's the whole point, and that's
Saying
why we
what you
did it.
have written is too vague.
So can I inject something here?
Yep.
So I think the way that I would see this request would be to evaluate the suggestion and the intent of the suggestion, which is to allow more open communication between council and staff. And the discussion that I think should be had with the city attorney would be, how do we take this wording and turn it into something that that fits codable wording and allows that communication for city staff and council to have a conversation, whether it be about the weather or whether it be about how's that truck working. Because I was given the impression at the January 3rd meeting by statements that you made in that meeting that I could ask a staff person as I ran into them, hey, that last, and I'll just stick with the truck example because it's an easy one. how'd that work out? Is there something we should look at different next time? You know, is there anything that you would like me to know about that would make your job better? You know, and that is not me representing the council. That is something where that information, I can then go, I might need to go do some research, go find out some other things, and then I can come back and say, hey, city administrator, by the way, I was looking at these things, you know, can we talk about this? Let's put that on the agenda and then have a discussion as council. So it's a matter of being able to have communication and get open ideas where, you know, and what Santos was talking about, where somebody might speak differently with their supervisor present. Well, if they have a really good idea, but their supervisor hadn't thought of it first, they might be reluctant then to even mention it out loud because they don't want to make their supervisor look bad or something along those lines, where I don't feel that it would, but some people do feel that way. You know, people a lot of times will automatically defer to whoever is the power person in the situation. So if their boss is standing right there, and I'm not talking about shedding, you know, any kind of information that, you know, I don't know where you're going, but negative stuff, but I'm saying just even positive ideas, they're not going to necessarily want to share in a lot of individuals. And I've seen this because I've been in management. And I've seen people who will automatically defer, even though they have great ideas, they will defer to that person who is their manager. So by saying you have to have a manager there, you make it a very extremely formal situation. And so that person is going to be much more reserved than if they're just having a conversation. And based on the talk that we had on the January 3rd meeting, it was my impression that if we were to have a conversation with a city staff person, as long as it was not something that was directly related to a topic on the agenda or something that was going to be brought on the next agenda, we'd just let you know about it, you know, say, by the way, hey, we had a conversation. That was my impression, but what it seems to have turned into, and what you're saying tonight is entirely different, which is if we want to talk to somebody that's a city staff person, an employee of the city, we have to go to you and set up a meeting with you and their direct supervisor
Correct.
to have any kind of a simple conversation.
I think what is important to remember too is that it leaves all the discretion with the city administrator. So if you are someone with a good relationship with the city administrator, he probably will, like you, Phil, say, yes, you can go talk to Steve Boca. That doesn't mean he would tell me I could go talk to Steve Boca or Santos. And so that leaves no objectivity there. And I can tell you, I have talked with several mayors in the state of Iowa. I'm on several commissions and committees with them, and I've asked them about this. How does this work in your city? Several of them have similar language to ours, but not a one of them carries it to the level that that a council person, any elected official, can't go to a city staff person that's mowing the yard or whatever it is they're doing and have an honest and open relationship conversation with them. The only way that they play out this very similar code is that you can't give a directive. In none of the situations where I spoke with the mayors have they said that it's ever about communication. In fact, they thought it was preposterous. What do you mean? The councilman can't go and talk to them. What are you saying? And I explained, you know, that it means no communication without going through the city. And they said, no, we don't read it that way. We just read it so that it means that you can't give a directive. And what I think this move to change the code is just about clarifying that. It's just about clarifying the code to say, see, it only is talking about you can't give directives. It doesn't mean that you can't go and communicate with them. That's what I see it as, a clarification, so that there's any kind of wiggle room in there, no matter who's in that position.
And that's where I would say that I would understand that the request to turn this into a future agenda item wouldn't necessarily, and because Santos brought this forward, I would ask him to clarify if I'm getting this right. It wouldn't have to be the exact wording here, but it would have to fit the intent that we're talking about now that would allow that communication to take place. And then I would also say we haven't heard from the other two council members present here on where they stand on this. And so in order of kind of moving things along, I would ask that we hear from them so we know if we have a consensus just to be able to bring this to I mean, and we would still have multiple discussions on it because code changes require multiple readings. So even if we move it forward tonight with a consensus, that doesn't pass anything. It doesn't make anything a done deal. We're bringing it back at a later date to see what the proposed code change would be and then discuss that and vote on that.
I support code change.
Thank you. Councilman Harvey?
First of all, I have mixed emotions on this, and I'll tell you why. I haven't, so far, and I don't see it being a problem in the future, but I haven't had any problem with either telling Greg up beforehand or at the time, or even maybe even after the fact, that I had a conversation with so-and-so about something that was of interest to the city or me. So that hasn't been a problem with me during my term. However, based on my experience in private industry, I do know that I worked for several department heads who said, in no uncertain terms, you will not disagree with me in any meeting. Which I think is one thing that is a fear here, that if a supervisory person is available, the subordinate to that supervisory person will not say anything that he or she thinks is contrary to what that department head wants them to say. So that's the other side of that coin that I can see, not that there has been a problem, but I can see that it very well could be with some supervisors, some department heads, or, maybe nobody that's here today, but maybe in the future, because I worked under that auspices. You did not disagree with the department head.
Exactly, and if you have someone who is in fear of their job, if they do disagree or have a complaint, then that just stops everything right in its tracks. They don't feel free to express themselves properly. The other thing that, current events and whatnot, the Me Too movement has brought up, and I know we've all had the harassment training and whatnot, but if an employee is being harassed in one way or another by his or her supervisor, the last person they want in the room when they talk to city administrator or someone else is that supervisor.
But that's a different situation.
There's a protocol for that. You must go to HR.
Yes,
It's a different
there
situation.
is.
I mean,
Yes, but if you have that supervisor present, if the supervisor is the one doing the harassing, you're not going to get an honest answer or an honest dialogue from that.
We're not involved at that
No,
level.
we're not.
No, and the
No.
supervisor's not required to be there.
And
Okay.
I wanted to follow up to a comment that you made, Alan, that sometimes you've talked to Greg after the fact, that you spoke with someone, and I think that's what Santos said at the beginning, was he discovered that that's in violation of the code, and you could get in trouble for that.
But when I say after the fact, I'm talking about probably within an hour or a day.
Yeah. But it still would be, and that's, I think.
Yeah, I know. My only fear with the way it is now is, like I said, that somehow a supervisor can use that in a negative sense, do not disagree with me. And that would, I would not like to have to talk to an employee that was afraid to express his opinion for fear that his job would be in jeopardy.
Exactly.
And I don't know how you resolve that situation. I really don't. But I would like to have that not be a potential issue.
The other comment that one of the mayors said to me a couple days ago was, if we don't speak with department heads and employees and only get information through the city administrator, then theoretically, everything is filtered through him, and we may not be seeing the big picture, for good or bad. I don't think anybody's trying to look at this in a negative thing. I think it's a positive to open up communication with everyone, and I think better communication is always a good thing.
I remember after one of the meetings, I was talking to Brian, and Greg happened to be standing about, I don't know, for me to Nadine. I was talking back and forth to Brian, and he was talking to me, and all of a sudden, I said, by the way, Greg, I'm talking to Brian. Yeah, it was kind of a joke, but in some ways, you know, I guess I was initially violating the rule that I shouldn't have been talking to Brian about a city issue, but I was, you know.
So
I think it's, what we're trying to, I think what's the concern, and my concern is taking things to either extreme. And that's a hard thing to put into writing, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, and I see what you're saying, and I understand where Greg's comments were, is if somebody's taking 15 hours of staff every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But if somebody asks in a
That's to the
simple-
extreme.
That's to the extreme. But if somebody says, you know what, you're taking 2 hours a month out of somebody's time, is that too much? Or an hour a month when you talk to somebody? You know, there's a difference between trying to basically just know or get a litmus test on how things are actually going versus just not having information at all and being able to fear that you're violating the code. You know, in a sense, I violated the code multiple times when I went on the police ride or when I went with the firefighters. If I didn't have those conversations with those department heads or thinking that I was just going to a retirement party and asking how things are going, or somebody else's, you know, congratulations party. You know, those are things that to me, this code, to me, in all shapes and forms, it divides us. It doesn't unite us. And I feel we should be united as a council with our teams and our staff, department heads, and our city. And if I'm open to what you suggested, Kelsey, all I want to be able to continue is be able to come up with a way that we can have that access without creating a violation of the code. Because when it was explained to me that I requested that, I didn't realize that I was violating the code. So I said, that's fine. I'm violating the code. Let's look at ways that we can enhance and change the code to improve our communications. This isn't to me any retaliation in any shape or form.
I think one term we might apply to that is it okay to have impromptu conversation with a city staff member?
Yeah, but that's the whole point. That
Yeah.
needs to be clarified because to me, I violated, you violated it.
Well, we all violate it. We
So
go up
that's-
and talk to
again,
people before the
but
council
again,
meetings
when
all
you-
the time.
When you have somebody that reads the code and utilizes the code to try to push that issue, then we need to change it to make sure that, because they need to follow the code. And so we are the owners of the code. We have the ability to change it. And that's what I'm requesting for us to evaluate it. If we need to have another discussion with Brick and those things, that's fine. But I will not remove my belief that we need to be able to come up with a way that we have better communications and remove these walls that I feel that we have.
And I think we need more information, and that includes some comparisons, but I think it also, some evaluation from the city attorney. I think the city attorney needs to be present because there are multiple issues surrounding this particular change, whether you like it or not. There are issues surrounding this change that could violate contracts, that could violate the city council rules and would require actually a 6-member vote rather than a simple majority. There are other issues that need to be addressed that surround this topic, and that needs to be addressed, and that information needs to be shared with the city council so that you can make a decision based on all of the information.
I shared that email that I had gotten from Matt that requested if we changed this code, and he said we only needed to have 4. And
City
so,
council rules require 6.
Council rules is 6.
but I'm talking about changing the code.
Yes,
Okay.
but that can have an effect on council rules. That's the point. You have to consider everything, not just
Okay,
the code.
okay, so again, it seems like we're having another wall of communications, because if that's the issue, again, we'll have to look at what other steps we need to take.
So do you have consensus?
So do we have a consensus to move this forward, have more conversation, perhaps are you asking for someone to create language?
I would like to see if Brick could look at some of those things and be able to bring it up to our next meeting.
And you're looking for a consensus for that, so go ahead.
Would that be, I assume, the in-depth session for discussion? I mean, that would typically be where this type of thing would happen, not a normal council meeting. Council meeting is where you would take action on the ordinance.
Sure.
Yeah.
If we do an in-depth, then you're pushing out another month.
Yeah, well,
Couple weeks.
are you,
Yeah,
are you
week.
wanting to move this forward with
I
council?
actually wanted to move it already forward. I don't want to wait. I don't
So
believe that we
you're
have to have.
asking for staff to write language and bring it
To
forward?
review the language that I've already written, because
Okay.
I don't believe that we have an enormous amount of changes. When I reviewed this with Brick, he did not come back with me saying this was going to violate all kinds of codes.
Okay,
Again, that's somebody else's interpretation, not his, when he reviewed it with me. And I shared it with him as well, too.
Can
I
I
think
su-
he
make
is
a
our,
suggestion to
Go
add on to
ahead.
that, Santos? Would be that if the city administrator and the city attorney find that it violates council rules and/or other code sections in some way, that those items are brought to our attention specifically for review, so we can determine if there is a minor adjustment that could be made there that would be applicable, and/or what those issues might be, because I wouldn't want to push forward a directive to potentially violate those rules. I would want to address those beforehand. So I would want to make sure that taking the code, the wording that you have written, turning it into a viable code change, and if there is any other specific items, those items, that it would cause an issue with, that those items are brought to our attention as soon as possible.
So
that
can
we
we get
could-
a chat, before we go any further, can we make sure we have a consensus, and then we can kind of iron out?
do we have 4 to move this forward?
Yes.
Councilman Brackett,
Yes.
Councilman Salcedo,
Right.
Nadine, Allen,
I'd like to get more clarification, yes.
Spread?
Nope.
Phil?
Nope.
So we have 4 to move it forward. The question is how to move it forward. Sounds like Santos would like it to come up for a vote, and then after we get a motion and a second, discussion could happen then? Is that what you're saying?
why don't we put it on for the 8th? That way he has another 2 weeks.
We don't have a meeting the 8th.
Oh, we don't?
We don't meet the second
No.
meeting in August.
No, there's no in-depth in August. So it'll be the 15th.
I need
Because
to
of
check.
Great River
I need
Days.
to check with
That's
Matt's schedule as well.
The only thing I don't want to do is rush through it. I mean, when I
We
say
can do it
that
on the
to-
15th. I'm fine with that.
We'll move it forward, and that way Oz would be here too.
15th.
August
Full
15th.
session on the 15th, so Matt was available on the 15th, I
Yeah.
believe.
I don't hear anything else. We're going to go ahead and move that forward to the 15th, if schedules allow. And that was the last agenda item. We'll move forward to communications. Councilman Harvey, do you have anything tonight?
Yes, Your Honor. I was aware of a little bit of discussion where the council may have been, say, disappointed in the application of some rules and regulations as it applies to a local business. And my only comment there is the city staff's obligation is to not make changes to the rules and regulations and the ordinances and stuff. Their job, their obligation is to enforce them. So never take them to task for doing their job in that sense. If you don't like the rule and regulation, then it's on the council to make those changes. And I'm saying all this for my term on planning and zoning, zoning board of adjustment, and on this council. One thing came up where a property was rezoned from one use to the other. Well, that came before me on the zoning board of adjustment. But those changes were made consistent with what the zoning ordinance allowed to happen. So, and a lot of times even the citizens get mad at the city staff for taking this particular stand, and that's their job, is to enforce the existing rules and regulations. And particularly if the council doesn't like those rules and regulations, then it's up to the council to make the changes. But do not ask the staff to make those changes, because that's not their job. But what I mean by, yeah, they rewrite the codes and stuff for us, but they can't go out to Joe Blow and say, yeah, it's okay for you to do this. You know, they can't change the rules. So just keep that in mind when you're having discussions on things that you maybe happened that you didn't like to have happen, or the staff made a judgment that you didn't agree with. Well, they're all the time in the Zoning Board of Adjustment. It was the staff cannot allow this to happen, but the Zoning Board of Adjustment, within the rules and guidelines, can allow it to happen. But the staff can't make that decision. So I'm just asking you to keep that in mind. And maybe a little lighter subject is, for the last 2 weeks, my wife and I have been without central air conditioning.
Ooh.
And got it running again today. And I can tell you, for those who pine about the good old days without air conditioning sucks. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Spread?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Councilman Salcedo?
I just wanted to remind, they have the Almost Friday Fest coming up again, and again, staff and the many different companies that have worked together are pushing that together, and I hope that people can come out to that, which will be the very next week on Almost Friday, which should be
Next Thursday.
July 25th. Yes, that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Brackett?
I just wanted to kind of give a shout out. I was, due to scheduling conflicts, I was unable to attend either of the concert events this past weekend, but I heard from a number of people that they were quite entertaining. They raised a lot of money for a good cause, and I was glad to see that happen, so hopefully we see more of that. I also wanted to remind people that right now the county fair is going on. Started yesterday and goes through Sunday, and that's at the fairgrounds in West Liberty. So, but stay safe, stay hydrated. It's unbearably hot right now, so be careful.
Rockin' on Sycamore supports Shop with the Cop, which is a wonderful program here in Muscatine. Very pleased. Staff, anything?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
I just had a couple things. I also wanted to thank everybody for coming out to the community events this past weekend. If you had a chance to get out, the downtown was packed, and it was wonderful visiting with everyone for a great cause and everybody having a good time with their neighbors. I wanted to let you know that we have canceled Coffee with the Mayor, and our city was going to be taped right after this Saturday. We were going to do it at Pine Creek Grist Mill at Wildcat Den, but they've closed it because of the heat. It's just a nightmare. So the weather got us again. If it's not cold, it's hot. And I wanted to let you know I will be on vacation all of next week, but I can still be reached by telephone. And back on the heat issue, please check on your neighbors, check on your pets, make sure you don't leave any person or animal in a car, and just try to do your best to stay cool and help those around you that need it as well. Hope everyone has a good next week. Reminder, we have no council meeting. Please get out to Almost Friday Fest. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.